So in this session, I'd like to look at some of the developmental patterns of children, and in particular, young babies. So I'd like to introduce you to Eric. Come here, Eric. Come. This is Eric. He's 9 months old. He's my little boy. And so what I'd like to do is show you some of the exercises that we've done together since the first couple of days of him being alive, since he was born rather, and you can see the sorts of things that have helped in his development. One of the first things that was useful to do with him was the picking him up. Pretty much after the first or second day he could lift up his head like this, but as soon as you can lift up the head like that, it's a good way to holding him like this because he rests on his abdomen and you can see what he's doing. You can actually swap, you can pick up pretty much a newborn like this once they can lift up their head. But until they can lift up their head, sometimes holding them in the other hand like this is also a good way. But it gives them their proverbial tummy time like this. But until he could lift up his head, a useful thing for some kids is to hold them from the hips and hang them upside down. And hanging them upside down, which they tend to really like, is a way of making them use their neck extensors in a way which is not too difficult for them. So now you can see he's trying to lift his head up, which lifts his head up in a way which is much easier to lift your head up from hanging than it is to lift it up from this horizontal position. Hey, what do you think? And then once he could be comfortable, able to lift up his head in the extended position like this, gradually he could start to work lifting up his head from the vertical position. So obviously it's easiest for him to hold his head up from sitting up like this, vertical, and then it's gradually a little bit more difficult the further back he leans. So as he got more comfortable, I could take him further back, but always ready to support his head in case there was a problem. But eventually he can go right back. And at his age, and in fact from about 2 months old, I could take him all the way back and he'd be able to comfortably lift his head back up again. And as you go back like this, also his abdominal muscles are working. But before you program the abdominal muscles to work, it's good to get the back extensors to work. And so from holding him from the hands under the abdomen position, gradually with time, he's able to be held from further towards his trunk, so until with him, after about 4 or 5 months, I could actually hold him from his hips. Now, what are you doing? Stop playing there. So now I can hold him from his hips, and he does a type of shalabhasana, lift up like this. So a shalabhasana where his spine can arch upwards completely into extension, lift up like that. So that's fairly much his extensor muscles active. And one of the things that's quite good to do once he can grasp is to have him holding on. Now he can stand up. He can't walk yet, but a lot of the standing up is being forced by he's being done with his hands. So he's pulling on my hands, and he's actually strong enough since he was about 5 months old. Hold my fingers. And once he could hold his fingers, he could also lift up his whole body weight off the ground like this. And of course, you have to be careful that he's not going to fall into something. But once he gets to the stage where he can stand up, you never encourage little kids to stand up by themselves. Hold my hands, hold my hands. And he's at the point where he has enough tone to hold himself up. And even though he's walking right now, he's walking actually using his arms and his legs. Come on, walk. Walk, you know how to walk? So, one of the things that's possible then is once he can push down on his legs and straighten his legs, he's actually able to hold himself pretty much straight. And of course you do this with complete awareness and consciousness, but he's able to pretty much stand up by himself. Of course I actually support him and help balance him. He can't do this on the ground by himself, but the tone in his body is there, and it helps give him some tone, some muscular tone. Balance properly. Balance properly. Balance properly. Where are you going? Where are you following me? Are you following me? Are you following me? What are you doing up there? What are you doing up there? Ah. Whoop. the most important thing to encourage at this age is the ability to crawl. So as they learn to crawl, they use the opposing muscles of their arms and legs, and this helps develop coordination. And it's not advisable usually to let a child walk or to encourage them to walk until they've done a lot of crawling, and this can help them be more coordinated when they get older. You'll be a better dancer. One of the things that was useful when he was younger was teaching him to control himself sitting up. So by holding onto his thighs and pushing him back a little bit, it teaches him the reflex of sitting up. So I'm pushing him, and as soon as I push him back and help him, it loses his positioning, his abdominal muscles immediately fire. Then, of course, you can help him lower back to the floor, and he does a partial sit-up, and you assist him in the sitting up position where he's mainly doing it himself, but I'm just helping him go back and forth. As he falls backwards, you can feel the reflex activation of his abdominal muscles and his neck muscles. Generally, when he was younger, I would do this with a lot more of a soft cushioning underneath, and I'm very aware from the early age of the state of his neck. If a child's neck is not that strong, then you can't just let them fall back like that. Once he's developed in this way, also quite useful to use his adductor muscles. So he's able to use his adductor muscles to actually hold himself now on my shoulder, and I can feel his thigh muscles are quite strong and his balance is quite good, and he holds on with his thighs and squeezes his legs against my shoulder, and then usually also squeezes my nose or whatever else he can grab to hold himself on. No, don't let go of my mouth. So whenever he's grabbing hold of things, he's actually activating his whole musculature, his whole body musculature. And so whenever he falls in a way and loses his balance, also there's that reflex activation of the muscles that fire when any muscle is suddenly stretched. So show me your back extensors now. So you can see his spinal muscles, quite strong, and also abdominal muscles. Come back like this. And little kids do, actually from a very early age, enjoy being upside down and can derive quite a lot of benefit from being upside down. Upside down. And I'm holding him from his hips, I wouldn't hold him from his legs. Where are you? Where are you? And that actually allows them to gently traction their neck and develop their proprioceptive abilities. Of course, at this age, because he's never actually fallen, and I'm not planning on making him fall, he's got no fear at all. So actually the sensation of falling is actually just very, very pleasant. Okay, you're getting hot now? Say bye-bye. Bye-bye and thank you. Bye-bye.